What's up, everybody? It is I, Tevin No Chapo. Friends call me Chop, and we are back with a review of the new show Fallout on Amazon Prime. Fallout is based on the video game franchise of the same name that first came out in 1997. Now, since 1997, the Fallout franchise has had many sequels. Personally, I have very little experience with the video game franchise itself. I definitely played Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 at least on one occasion, and I usually stop playing around the same point in both those games, where you leave the vault and you go out into the Wasteland, and I die immediately after that in both games and have never gone back to it. So I don't have as much experience with the game franchise as some of the fans would, but thanks to YouTube and many YouTubers just providing videos on the lore of the franchise. But I've always been interested in the lore of Fallout, especially with the post-apocalyptic setting that it uses. So to give a quick rundown on the mythology of the Fallout franchise, Fallout takes place in an alternate history United States. So after World War II, the United States advanced technology-wise, but doesn't necessarily go past the 1950s culture. So you'll see where they'll have like robot butlers and everything like that, but won't necessarily stray away from the aesthetics, the style, the clothing of the 1950s. Now fast forward to the mid-2000s and the entire world is at a deficit for resources, which leads to constant bickering and war and things of that nature. That also eventually leads to the US government deciding to privatize their security with Vault-Tec. Now in the games, Vault-Tec is a private entity that creates vaults all around the country. Now these vaults are marketed to the general public as a means of escaping the imminent nuclear war that is brewing with the United States versus other countries like China. Now, what the general public isn't told is that these vaults work as social experiments to see how humans adapt after nuclear fallout. Now, these experiments vary on the vault itself, and some are worse than others for sure. But the common denominator in all this is that it's not brought to anyone's real attention aside from the quote-unquote overseer, which is the person that manages that individual vault. Now, once the nuclear war starts and the vaults to get filled up, fast forward 200 years later, and that is actually where our show takes place. The show follows Lucy, played by Ella Purnell, who is a vault dweller who has to go into the Wasteland to find her father, who is kidnapped. Along the way, she sees and realizes just the effects of the nuclear fallout and the progression of humanity because of it in the past 200 years. She meets people along the way, such as Maximus, played by Aaron Clifton Moten. He is a part of a group known as the Brotherhood of Steel. Now, this group essentially reigns tyranny all throughout the Wasteland using old school technology to preserve old school technology. Now, Lucy also meets the Ghoul, played by Walton Goggins. He not only plays the Ghoul in the Wasteland, but he also plays Cooper Howard, the spokesperson for Vault-Tec, in flashbacks throughout the show. And the show does a good job of setting all these characters on the same path, in the same direction, even when they're not necessarily sharing the screen together. I don't want to necessarily give too much away in this review, but I will say that there are a lot of twists and turns throughout the show, even from the first episode, that I did not see coming. Granted, I only have little knowledge and experience with the Fallout game franchise, but I will say that from what I do know of it, they nailed the aesthetics to a T, both not only in the current scenes in the Wasteland, but also in the flashback scenes as well. I think that the soundtrack using predominantly 1950s music is a great touch that also really enhances the aesthetics. Now, to me, the show even feels and moves like a video game, with there being a main quest that goes throughout the entire season, but the characters find themselves being sidetracked with various side quests, essentially. Very similar to how the Last of Us TV show did, where there was a main quest throughout that show, but the characters end up going through multiple side quests to get to that end game. And I think that approach definitely works with Fallout, just given the sheer scope of the type of locations that are displayed throughout the multiple games, and the different types of characters that the characters get to meet as well. Just from my knowledge of the lore, there is still plenty of characters and archetypes that don't necessarily show up in this first season, which makes it more exciting for the seasons to come to kind of explore the universe a lot more. I think the show does a great job of using CGI and practical effects. Everything looks pretty well natural. I definitely like how the armor for the Brotherhood of Steel is all practical. It definitely gives it more of a lived-in old school aesthetic that I really appreciate. And I also like how this show isn't necessarily connected to any one specific storyline throughout the games. Now, I could be wrong about this, but as far as I know, the TV show takes place the furthest in the Fallout timeline compared to all the games. So it makes it a lot easier for someone like me or someone who has no experience with the Fallout franchise to just walk into this show without having to know any of the lore or having to play any of the games in the past. I also appreciate just so much of the game being brought to life. Like I said, with the Brotherhood of Steel armor that looks really dope. I really like the Vault clothing that the Vault dwellers wear. It looks so unique and it looks literally spot on as it does from the video games. The ghoul makeup that they give Walton Goggins is also really good, especially with them having to CGI his nose out of every frame, which I think is very interesting and very dope as well. I also enjoyed the pacing. I think that the pacing was well done for the 8 episodes. It definitely kept me hooked each and every episode throughout. And everyone killed it in terms of the performances. Now, I think that the surprise performance for me would be Aaron Moulton as Maximus. I didn't necessarily think that I would resonate with that character as much as I would throughout the show, but he ended up just stealing the show so much and being so likable in such a terrible circumstances that he's in. Also, personally, I just adore Walton Goggins as an actor. Before I watched this Fallout show, I actually just watched The Shield for the very first time, which is considered one of Walton Goggins' more breakout roles. And while I didn't particularly like his character on the show, I think that his acting on the show was amazing. Not to mention all the other things that I've seen him in, he's definitely one of my favorite characters in one of my favorite shows, Justified, where he played Boyd Crowder for 6 seasons, and so many other roles that I can count where he just steals the show every single time. I also think Ella Parnell as Lucy was really great. She definitely had the bright eye innocence that can resonate with the audience coming into this universe. It's like she's seeing things as we would see it if we were walking through this wasteland for the first time. And she also makes multiple mistakes throughout the entire show because of her naivety to what the wasteland is like. And her dynamic, especially with Maximus, is definitely very interesting and compelling just to see the both sides of someone who is battered by the wasteland and Maximus who is trying to learn and adapt and be accepted in the Brotherhood of Steel versus someone like Lucy who is simply just trying to find her father in an unknown land and essentially someone who has been lied to for her entire life, being a Vault dweller. And with her being a Vault dweller coming out into the wasteland for the first time, she's definitely learning that not everything that she was taught in the Vault is what it actually seems in real life. And I think that they had just really great chemistry together. I think everybody in the cast overall does a wonderful job. I do want to highlight a couple honorable mentions in Michael T. Williamson and Michael Rappaport, both also Justified alumni, which, side note, if you haven't watched Justified before, if you like Westerns, it's definitely an enjoyable show. But I found both of their cameos, as brief as they both were, to be very enjoyable and very surprising. Now, since I don't have as much experience in the Fallout franchise, I wasn't able to pick up on every single Easter egg throughout the show. Now, feel free to comment below on all the Easter eggs that you noticed throughout the entire run. But the ones that I picked up on, I definitely appreciated seeing, like, you know, having the Pit Boys on everybody's arms, or just even getting more backstory as to why we get the thumbs up logo and everything like that with Vault-Tec. Even just little stuff as having a dog as a companion, I thought was a real nice touch. Now, overall, I definitely think that the new Fallout show was very, very well done. I was definitely hooked from the very first episode, and not only did I think that the characters did a great job, the story was well done, the pacing, the cinematography was well, and I also am just super excited to see more of these characters and just see more from this franchise as a whole. So if you are a big fan of the Fallout franchise, this is definitely something that you cannot miss. Even if you're not a super big fan or super knowledgeable of the Fallout franchise, I would definitely give this a watch as well. It's very intriguing, it's very interesting, it does a good job of flowing with multiple mysteries, and it also does a great job of just balancing the tone of dark comedy and drama at times as well. And I just think that this is probably one of my favorite shows to come out this year so far already. But hey, these are my thoughts on the new Fallout TV show on Amazon Prime. Have you seen it? Let me know how you feel about it in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Again, my name is Tevin El Chapo. Friends call me Chop, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.